nothing. Yeah, if it ain't love, it ain't nothing.
Peace and power to the true and living. What's good, family? This is CBornNacirfaSun, and I am you. Yo, I'm excited to be coming back at you with another powerful video. This is Reflections of a Higher Consciousness. Yep, if you have been watching my videos, then you know that we are about to go incredibly deep. Now, this one I titled The Law of Reciprocal Action. The Law of Reciprocal Action. And this is actually the third video that I have done on the Law of Reciprocal Action. So I strongly suggest that you go back and check out the first two. The first one was the video about reincarnation that I did not too long ago. And reincarnation is just a product, another effect of the Law of Reciprocal Action. The second one I did was Lucifer in the Last Judgment. And the Last Judgment is just another product, another effect of the Law of Reciprocal Action. So go ahead and check that out. Now, in this video, we're going to be talking about free will. We're going to be talking about the return, how this law works. We're going to be talking about family ties as it relates to the law of reciprocal action. We're going to be talking about sicknesses and being born with deformities and things like that, and how it relates to the law of reciprocal action. And then we'll go ahead and close it with some beautiful words from the Grail message. So let's go ahead and begin. Now, as I mentioned in the reincarnation video, this law of reciprocal action has many names or subdivisions. So when you hear people say karma, when you hear people talk about Newton's law of motion, when people say what goes up must come down, what goes around comes around, when people talk about the law of returns, when people talk about giving and taking, they're talking about the law of reciprocal action. All these things fall under the law of reciprocal action, right? It's just that one law in its various forms. So that's all that's happening there. So let's talk about how this works, how the law of reciprocal action works, right? With this law, it means that everything must return to its starting point. All the cycles must close. So in the case of human beings, with our thoughts, our words, and our actions, every time we produce a thought, we speak words, we commit actions, right? We are opening cycles. We are planting seeds in creation. And these seeds will grow and they will bear multiple fruits, right? And we, being the creators, being the starting point of these seeds, right? They must return to us. The cycle must close by our the effects, the consequences of our sowing returning to us, right? That's how the cycle closes, right? And in this process, we either taste the sweet fruits of our sowing, or we taste bitter fruits of our sowing based upon what it was that we sowed in the beginning, right? So through this law of reciprocal action, the fruits of your sowing will either uplift you, right, into higher consciousness, into a better environment, into just a better life, or they will push you down, they will depress you, right, plunge you into catastrophe and devastation, and so forth, all based upon what is it that we planted, right? So this is a very powerful thing that we're dealing with here, and it's not to be taken lightly. And as I mentioned, the ignorance of the law of reciprocal action is what creates so many mysteries of the human existence, and these things need not be mysteries. And if we understood these things like we should, so many of the pain, destruction, devastation, and disappointment, all these things could be alleviated, could be done away with, simply by us learning this and understanding what it is that we are doing. Not God, but we. What is it that we are doing with the power of God, right? So this is how this law works. Everything returns to a starting point. All the cycles must close, right? And this happens on the smallest scales, and it also happens on the grandest scale, right? So on a small scale, let's just say, for example, on a small scale, what's an example I can throw out there really quickly? I can say you have, you have an apple seed, right? And you plant this seed, and this seed grows and bears fruit, right? Now, through this process, right? You planted a seed, and the seed grew, and it bears fruit, right? And these fruits return to you. In this case, you get some delicious apples that you can enjoy, right? You could share with your family and friends. Also, this apple tree helps the environment, right? It helps the environment, and it helps the creatures in the environment, right? So every seed that we sow, whether we're physically sowing an apple seed or any other seed, or we're sowing seeds through our thoughts, words, and action, every seed that we sow is going to grow and return to us. And not just that, it is going to affect the environment and other life forms, not just your life, right? It affects the environment and other life forms. So this is why when the fruits of your labor, when the fruits of your thoughts, words, and deeds return to you, it returns multiplied, right? Because you are literally affecting the environment and other life forms in creation. So it's not just affecting yourself. So you are making a difference in creation. You are making a difference in other lives. This is why this law is such a powerful law. So we have to be very careful with what it is that we are thinking, saying, and doing, because of how great the effects are, right? But in this little example that I just gave, that's the law of reciprocal action on a small scale, right? But let's look at the law of reciprocal action on a grand scale, on perhaps the grandest of scales, right? Um, I made a video not too long ago. I think it was the origin of Christmas video, where I talked about how every year during this time during the time of Christmas, the Creator sends his power, his love out into creation in order to nourish creation and keep it in existence, right? So what happens is that as the Creator sends this power out into creation, right, it flows all through creation from the top to bottom. It flows all through creation, in all the environments, and through all the creatures in creation. So they receive this love of God, right? And this is also a cycle. So it goes from the top to bottom. It goes through all the creatures, through all the parts of creation, right? And then as all these creatures use this power, as it flows through them, and you know nourishes them, it also returns back up, right, to its source. So this is a continuous cycle. But what's happening now with human beings here on in the material world is that this power that the Creator is sending in creation, when it gets down here to human beings, right, it gets stuck, right? It's not flowing back like it should. It's getting stuck here because we are entangled in darkness and evil, right? So this power is getting stuck here and is being used for evil. And as such, it is not returning back up to the Creator, right? This is the power with which these dark and degenerate Luciferian entities have taken this power, and they only use it to create electronics, right? They use it to create artificial life, right? That's the power that they're using. And it is because human beings are so immersed and plunged in darkness and evil that this is happening. So the power of the Creator that He's sending out into creation, His great love, is not flowing back like it should, right? And this is one of the reasons why the last judgment is going to be so devastating for human beings, right? So that just gives you an idea of the law of reciprocal action on the grandest of scale. But this is every aspect of life and creation, right? Is affected by this law of reciprocal action. So it is a very, 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 very powerful thing that we're dealing with here. And we cannot afford to deal with such power in ignorance, right? And that's a problem with human beings. We're using the power of our creator, but we're doing it in ignorance. And that's why we're suffering so much, right? All right, so let's go deeper. Let's talk about free will. It's important to understand free will in talking about the law of reciprocal action. So, what is the free will? Because free will, matter of fact, maybe I need to do a video where we dive deeper into free will, because this is one of those things that people don't understand, right? But the free will is not complicated; it's simple, right? Free will is your ability to make decisions, right? Is your freedom to choose and decide. You get to decide what you're gonna do with this life. You get to decide what direction you want to go, right? Nothing is forcing you. God is not arbitrary. God is not going to force you to do anything. He gave you the freedom to decide what it is that you want to do with this life, which direction you want to take this life. That's free will right there, right? And by this process of free will, this gift of free will is really what helps us to learn. Free will coupled with the law of reciprocal action and the law of attraction, right? These are the things that really allows us to learn, because then we get to see the effects of our decision. We get to see the effects of our power. And through this process, we can learn and make adjustments, make necessary adjustments and so forth, right? But when we are ignorant of this, then we just continue in this cycle of darkness, you know, doing dumb shit and plunging ourselves deeper into ruins. So free will is very simple. It is the freedom, the power to decide what you're gonna do with this life. It's that simple. It's not complicated, right? Now, the problem is, and the reason why so many people misunderstand the free will today, why so many people will argue and assert that there is no such thing as free will, is not only because of the misunderstanding of what free will is, it's also because human beings today, we have surrendered our free will. So what we are operating with today is not really the free will as it was given to us by the creator. It's not the free will in its purest form. What we are operating today, right, is the will bound by the intellect. That's what we have turned our free will to, right? So today, in the case of human beings, it's not really free will anymore. It is the will bound by the intellect, right? And we have to think about this, because this is a very serious thing. In my videos, I mean, I've talked so much about Lucifer, and I talked about the fact that Lucifer is the master of the intellect, right? The intellect is a product of our brain, right? The intellect is the ability to think and reason, right? So Lucifer is the master of the intellect. This is what he was sent here. He was sent here to help us develop this intellect, right? So what we have today is the will bound by the intellect, meaning that through human beings accepting Lucifer's lies and temptations, right? We have corrupted our free will, and now we are locked in this uh in this limited process of intellectual thinking and reasoning. We are locked in the intellect without the spirit. So the free will is the will that is bound by the intellect. And Lucifer being the master of the intellect, right? And he has corrupted the human intellect. He has corrupted the human intellect to a point where we have become blind, deaf, and dumb, right? He has tricked human beings into thinking that intellectual growth and development was the pinnacle, was our pinnacle, right? And that's not true. The way it's supposed to happen is that we're supposed to develop this intellect under the control of the spirit. But Lucifer tricked us into developing the intellect, right? In neglecting the development of the spirit. So over time, this is why human beings became materialistic, right? We became more materialistic than we are spiritual. So the intellect that we're working with today is not even the intellect in the pure form the way it's supposed to be. It is the intellect under the control, under the Luciferian corruption. And then our free will is bound to that. So as you can see, what this means is that for thousands of years, all human beings have been doing is fulfilling the will of Lucifer on this earth while thinking that we are fulfilling the will of the Creator. That's all we've been doing with our free will, which is now bound by the intellect. So we have been fulfilling the will of Lucifer, the will of the darkness on this earth, and not the will of the Creator. I hope this is making sense, right? So this is what I mean when I say the free will is bound by the intellect. The human beings, we are bound by our intellect. It has made us blind, deaf, and dumb. Right? I hope that's making sense. But we have to move on. So again, the free will being bound by the intellect is the reason why people don't understand free will and why they assert that there's no such thing as free will, right? Because we don't want to accept responsibility. We don't want to be accountable for the shit that we have done. So it's easier to say, oh, that's not true. That's not right. You know, we don't have free will. It's not our fault. It's easier for us to say shit like that. All right, so let's move on. Now, the free will precedes every reciprocal effect. The free will precedes every reciprocal effect. What this means is that all the things that happen to us in our lives, all the things that we experience, right? We first had to make a decision. It was a decision that we made that led to all those things that we experienced, all the things that happened to us. It started with a decision that we made. That's what this means, right? But remember, with the free will being bound by the intellect, it follows that most of the decisions that we're going to make are going to be bad decisions, and they're going to bring bad fruits, and they're going to bring bad experiences, right? But the free will must precede every reciprocal effects, meaning that everything that you have to go through, experience, suffer, or enjoy, right, started with a decision. Started with a decision that you made. Whether you made this decision in this life or whether you made this decision in the ethereal world, right, doesn't make a difference. You still made a decision. But the problem is human beings being that we're not allowed to see, we don't have the memories of our previous lives, right? So a lot of times we can't see where we made the decision, because sometimes we suffer and experience things in this life, you know, or sometimes we get blessings in this life that we cannot trace the beginning of. So that's why a lot of time people think that, oh, why is God doing this to me? I'm innocent. Why is this happening to me? Why does bad thing happen to good people? You know, what does bad thing happen to innocent people? So we think that this is what's happening, but it's not. It's not. There's no injustices in the creation of God. There's no injustices. It's just that we cannot see the starting point, because most of the time, right, the starting point is either in the ethereal world, meaning that we made this decision while we were in the ethereal world, or the starting point was a previous life. We made this decision many lives ago, right? What we have to understand is that we have one continuous existence, right? We have one continuous existence, but it is broken down, right, into many lives. It is broken down into many lies here on earth and many lies in the ethereal world, but it is still one continuous. And they're all connected. All these lies are connected. Excuse me. The dryness in my throat. You know, the passion always comes out when I'm talking about the Grail message. So it's the passion, I tell you, it's the passion, right? But like I was saying, our existence is one continual, we have one continual existence, even though it's broken down into many lies, and all these many lies are connected, right? So the things that happen in previous lives can very well come and affect us here. The things that happen in the ethereal world can very well come and affect us here. So there's no injustices, absolutely not. So again, the free will must precede every reciprocal effect. Nothing is just happening to you. You're not just some poor victim that things are just happening to. No, you are very active in this process. You are the creator in this process. And you are using the power of your creator to do these things, but you don't even know, right? What else about free will? Oh, free will and consequences. One of the arguments that I've heard so many times from people when they argue and assert that there is no such thing as free will, their reason is, how can there be free will if we are subject to consequences? That's the argument. How can there be free will if we are subject to consequences? I never understood that. That argument doesn't make sense to me. Because what these people are saying is that what they're trying to say is really that if there's any such thing as free will, that means that we should be allowed to do whatever we want without any consequences. That's what they're really saying, right? But if you really think about it, like the Grail message says, that's the climax of stupidity, right? In thoughts like that, arguments like that are coming from a place of not wanting to be responsible and accountable for the shit that you're doing. That's why people make these kind of arguments and assertions. How can there be free will if we are subject to consequences? Are you serious? You're asking the wrong question. The real question is, how can there not be consequences? I mean, how can there not be consequences in life? Think about that. Because if there are no consequences, then life is absolutely meaningless. And there's no point in living life if there are no consequences for the things that we do. It makes life absolutely meaningless if there are no consequences. Think about that. So in other words, why do we tell people to work hard? Huh? Why do we tell people to be committed, to be faithful? Because we know the consequences of those things. We know those things brings good fruits. Because if there are no consequences, then there'll be absolutely no point in telling people to work hard and chase their dreams. If there are no consequences in life, then what's the point of working hard and chasing your dreams? What's the point of even having dreams if there are no consequences? It is because there are consequences that makes life worth living. It is because of this law of reciprocal action that makes life worth living. So this whole argument that there can't be no such thing as free will because we are subject to consequences, like I said, it is the climax of stupidity, as it says in the Grail message. It makes absolutely no sense, and you cannot use such a stupid argument to try to refute this powerful thing that we call the free will. You can't. So there has to be consequences. It makes no sense to assert that there are no consequences. There has to be consequences, people. Right? But again, we get to decide. We get to decide. Moving on. Now, let's talk about the return. the return. Let's get deeper into the law of reciprocal action, right? Because remember, your thoughts, your words, and your actions, these are seeds. Every time we use these things, we're planting seeds in creation. Every time. So, for example, with a thought, when you produce a thought, right? When our thoughts have certain energy, our thoughts have certain energy. And this is the energy that we call emotion, right? Our emotions are the energy of our thoughts. That's what we call emotion. And emotions are very powerful. It's a very powerful creative energy, right? Emotions are a very powerful creative energy. So whenever we produce thoughts, right? Whenever we produce these emotions, they create an ethereal form that represents the nature of this thought. So every thought that we produce, serious thoughts, thoughts that are backed by emotions, right? They take ethereal forms according to the nature of this thought, right? And then what happens is that this thought, because when you produce a thought, you're putting something out there in creation. You're putting something in creation, right? And these thoughts, they take an ethereal form, but then these thoughts, they themselves are attracted, right? Or they attract based on the strength, right? But they attract, or they are attracted by similar thought forms, similar energy that's already out there in creation. So through this process, these thought forms become stronger, right? Become stronger than what they were when you first produced them. They become stronger by attracting and being attracted by similar forms out there, already out there in the universe. So they become stronger. And with every thought that you produce, right, this thought remains attached to you with an ethereal cord, with an ethereal thread. And this thread cannot break. No matter how far away you go in creation, no matter where you go, these threads remain attached to you. Matter of fact, it says in the Grail message that if human beings were able to see the threads of fate that is attached to them, if our eyes could see these ethereal threads of fate, if we could see what's happening in the ethereal world whenever we produce thoughts, actions, and things like that, we will break down in despair. We will give up. We will not want to live life anymore because it would appear to us that everything is hopeless. There is no way. If we could really see the ethereal threads of fate that's attached to us, right? We will break down into despair because we will think that there's absolutely no way we can free ourselves from these things. That's how deep this shit goes. That's how much threads of fate we have attached to us. And unfortunately, most of these threads of fate are evil threads of fate that are coming to hurt us. So if we can see this, we will not want to live life. We will completely give up, right? But if you understand the laws of the Creator, right, no matter how entangled we have become, it is still possible to free ourselves, right? But it's only possible by learning the laws of creation, learning the knowledge of creation, adjusting ourselves to these laws, and living according to these laws. But it's possible, right? So these thoughts, when you produce them, they go out there and they get stronger and they will return to you, right? They will return to you even stronger than before, and they will have an effect on you based upon the nature of this thought. So if it's a good and uplifting thought, when it returns to you, it's going to uplift you. If it is an impure, evil, dark thought, when it returns to you, it's going to knock you down. That's how this process works, right? And it's not just with our thoughts, it is with our speaking and with our actions. Everything we do, we're putting seeds into creation, and we are attached to these seeds with ethereal threads of fate that do not break until the cycle comes back and closes with you as the creator, right? So through this process is how we learn what to do and what not to do. It's how we learn what's right and what's wrong. It's how we learn what's going to uplift us and what's going to knock us down through this process, right? Because remember, Earth life is a school of learning. But the thing with human beings is that we have become incredibly insane because we're locked in the intellect. So we have become incredibly insane. Like Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same shit and expecting a different result. And that's what human beings have been doing for thousands of years. We keep doing the same shit, but somehow we expect the results to be different. We are hoping and wishing that the laws of God will change for us, right? We're hoping and wishing that God will change his ways, that God will forego his perfection for us so that we don't have to be responsible and accountable for the shit we do. God, just take it away, please. Please. That's what we're hoping, but it don't work that way. We can't keep doing the same shit and thinking we're going to get a different result. So yes, humanity is extremely insane. We're insane. And we don't even realize how fucking insane we are. Right? And that's why we can't even learn from this law of reciprocal action, because we keep doing the same shit and the law keeps coming back and smacking us down and we keep doing the same shit. Right? But I'm sorry, people, that the law of the creator are not going to change for you. All right? Now, the one who creates is bound to his own creation. Even if his creations were meant for others, he is still bound to his own creations. And they will still affect him, even if it was meant for other people. Right? So, what this means is that not only are we all connected, right? But the things that I do will not only affect me, it'll affect the environment, it'll affect other life forms in the environment, right? And this means, excuse me, I'm having a brain fart, and I'm let me step back a bit. In the Grail message, it said, the one who creates is bound to his creation, even if they were meant for others. Right? So the things that we do, even if you're trying to do it to, even if you're doing it to someone else, right, through your thoughts, words, or your deed, even if it's meant for someone else, the effects of that still must come back to you, will still fall back on you, right? So what this means also is that we are vulnerable. We may be vulnerable to the thoughts, words, and actions of other people, even people that we may not know. So what I'm thinking, what I'm saying, and what I'm doing, right, is going to affect other people. Whether I know them or not, whether I've seen them before or not, whether I've interacted with them before or not, my thoughts, words, and deeds, because these are things that you're putting out into creation, into the universe, it will affect other people, right? And those effects will return to me, right? Now, some people may say, well, that's not fair. It's not fair. How come the things that I'm doing is going to affect somebody else? It's not fair to that other person. They didn't have anything to do with that. And no, that's not the case. That's not how it's working. Because remember, the things that I do, right? The people that it affect, remember, the reason why it is affecting these people. Let me step back a bit. Let me try to explain this a little clearly, right? So let's say, for example, you are having, you're having a thought about a person. Maybe you want to do something to this person or for this person, be it good or evil, right? Or you're saying something about this person, or you want to do something to this person, right? Be it good or evil, right? What is going to determine how your thoughts, words, and actions affect the other person is that person's inner state of being, right? So in other words, say I have an ill thought. I want to do something ill, something mean to another person. In order for that person to be affected by me, that person must have something within them, within themselves, right? That is homogeneous to what I plan on doing to them. In order for them to receive this from me, they must have something homogeneous within them, right? That allows a bridge. So let's say, for example, I want to do some evil to a person, right? But this person, right, is a good person. Like they are pure and true in their thoughts. They are pure and true in their words, and they're pure and true in their action. So what this does then, it creates an aura around this person. I mean, we all have auras. We all have auras, right? But in the case of this person who is pure in their thoughts, words, and deeds, right? The aura that is put around this person, right, is becomes impenetrable by anything that is opposite to that. Right? Because according to the aura is according to their inner state. So if the inner state is goodness, pureness in thoughts, words, and deeds, that aura then becomes impenetrable by anything that is not homogeneous with that person, with the inner state of that person. Right? So if I try to do something to hurt this person, it's not going to penetrate their aura. It's not going to work. All that's going to happen is going to bounce back and return to me as the creator, and then it'll affect me. So if it's some evil that I was trying to do to them, that evil is going to fall back on me. Right? However, if this person, right, in their aura, if they have anything that is homogeneous to what I'm trying to do to them, then what I'm trying to do to them will be able to reach them and have an effect on them, because they have something homogeneous within them that allows that to happen. Right? So no one is exposed, right? For example, you're not exposed to my thoughts, words, and actions, right? You're not vulnerable to my thoughts, words, and action unless you have something similar within yourself that allows that bridge. I hope this is making sense to you, right? So no one is left unprotected. So your protection is your inner state of being. So this is the reason why it is so important, and the message warns us over and over again about positive thinking. That's the foundation, positive thinking. And the message says over and over again, keep the heart of your thoughts pure. Right? That way you'll be happy and bring blessings to yourself. But our thinking is the foundation. Because that pure inner state is our protection against the evil that is out there. That's our protection. But if our inner state is not pure, then we are also open to everything else that is out there to come and have an effect on us. So there's no injustices happening here. None whatsoever. Everything begins from within us, right? So that's how, it happens. So my creations, even if they're meant for other people, is gonna have an effect on the environment. It's gonna have an effect on other people, but it's also gonna have an effect on me. And to the extent that it'll have an effect on other people is based upon their inner state. It's based upon the aura, right? Which they carry, right? Now, what else? I hope that makes sense. I mean, there's so much more I can say about it, but I got to move on. You know what I'm saying? We're already 40 minutes into this, and I still have a lot to talk about, right? So what else? What else? What else? What else? Now, of course, you hear this. How can God allow such things to happen? God, why are you doing this to me? People, God is not involved in this process. The work of the Creator is already done, and the work of the Creator is perfect. So God doesn't even need to intervene, and usually does not intervene. This is all us. It is we are the ones who's doing these things, but we're operating under ignorance. So we think that it is God, right? For example, in the Christian religion, they think that God is guiding and directing every single little aspect of their lives, and that's just not the case. No, you are the one doing that, not the Creator. And it's really important to realize that you are the one in the driver's seat. Because if you realize that you are the one in the driver's seat, then you will also realize that it is up to you to make the necessary changes and get yourself where you need to be, as opposed to waiting on God to come and do it for you. And it just doesn't work that way. So this whole thinking that God is doing all these things to us, it does not empower us. It makes us weak. The Creator has empowered you. He has literally given you his power. Because everything that we're doing with the power of God. Our very lives. Right? The Creator has empowered us. Now it is up to us to use his power that he has given us, right? To do what we need to do to get ourselves where we need to be so that we don't fall into destructions and ruins. So God is not doing anything to you. You're doing it to yourself. The real question is why we keep doing the same shit over and over again and expecting things to be different. That's the real question. It's not why does God allow this to happen? No. What else? Now, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to touch upon this again here, and I may touch upon it later on in this video because it's very important to realize this, right? We have been coming on this planet Earth for thousands. The human experience on this planet Earth started approximately 3 million years ago, right? Approximately 3 million years ago. We have lived so many lives on this earth and in the ethereal world, right? So a lot of times, the things that you're experiencing in this life, the root of that may not be in this current life. It may be in the ethereal world, or it may be in a previous life. But by us not knowing this is why so many people think that they're just some innocent victim that life is happening to. No, you're not. No one is innocent. There is no innocent victim on this planet Earth today. The only innocent victims on this planet is the natural world. It's the environment and the animals. That's the only innocent victim, right? And this is why so much devastation must fall back on human beings, because of what we have done to the environment and to the animals. Those are the only innocent victims here. But human beings, we're not innocent. None of us are. Right? So the effects may return to you in this life. If I do something in this life, the effects may not come back to me in this life. The effects may come to me in the ethereal world when I die and go to the ethereal world. All the effects may come to me when I come back to this life, right? When I die and go to the ethereal world and I leave the ethereal world and come back to earth, then the effects may come back to me for something that I did in the previous earth life. Right? People, this is the reason why it is so important to have the knowledge of creation. This is why I stress over and over again, experience the Grail message. The Grail message gives us everything that we need. Absolutely everything. The Grail message leaves no stones unturned. It is so important to know these, especially being that we are living here in the midst of the last judgment with everything that is unfolding, that is going to unfold. We have to know this, right? Let's get into family ties. Family ties. Let's see if I can keep this under an hour. Family ties. You know, we are born into families, and we have such the relationship in families are so manifold. You know, you may have a very loving relationship with people in your family, but at the same time, you may have a very frictional and destructive relationship with people in your family, right? So let's talk about family ties as it relates to the law of reciprocal action. You see, the things that we do not only affect us, but it affects other people, right? So let's say, for example, your parents, the people who are your parents today, in previous lifetimes, you were their parents. See what I'm saying? So this realization, this was one of the many things that helped me to really be able to forgive my dad and really have a true and genuine love for him. You know, because me and my dad had a very frictional relationship. All through my life, we had a very frictional relationship. And even right now, our relationship is not the best, right? But I have forgiven my father, and I have genuine love and understanding for him, right? But I mean, for the most of my life, I grew up with very strong animosity towards my father, right? So it was learning this that really helped me let go of that strong negative energy. Perhaps in some previous lifetime, I was his father, and Lord knows what I done to him in that lifetime. What kind of a father was I to him in that lifetime? How did I treat him? You see what I'm saying? So all the things in this current lifetime that I complain about concerning my father, right, are things that I have done to him in previous lives, right? These family ties are very, very strong. So let's say, for example, in a previous lifetime, you did something, you killed a person, even though you and that person were not family. In a previous lifetime, you killed a person, right? What's going to happen is that, what can very much well happen is that in this lifetime, right, you and that person that you kill are both going to be incarnated in the same family. Y'all are going to have some kind of a family tie, because these things that we're doing to people, whether they're in our family or not, we're creating bonds, right? We're creating bonds of fate, karmic bonds that will not be broken until whatever happened is resolved. So, for example, if you killed a person in a previous life, you and this person may be incarnated in the same family. You and this person may be, child and parent, husband and wife, brothers and sisters, cousins, whatever. Y'all may have some kind of familial bond, right? Because now in this life, y'all have to settle what happened in the previous life, right? So this is why many times within family, you may have family members who are so frictional. It's like they want to destroy and kill each other, right? That's because this shit started in a previous life, right? And that's why sometimes family members kill each other, right? People, this shit goes incredibly deep, right? But the reason why these threads of fate are why these bonds are created, right? It is also the wisdom and the love of the creator. So going back to this example that I'm using, if you kill somebody in a previous lifetime and you and that person are both incarnated in the same family in this lifetime, that is the love of the creator giving you guys a chance, right? Close. You guys are now close and intimate to give y'all a chance to reconcile this shit that happened in the past. So when you see yourself in a very frictional, heated, and hated relationship with a person, be it family or not, that could be the reason. That shit didn't start in this life. It started in previous lives. So what this means is that you have to start thinking about forgiveness and reconciliation in order to break this bond. Because if it's not broken, right? Because what ends up happening is that instead of breaking this bond in this life, we end up making the bond tighter. So what ends up happening is you're just going to be reincarnated into the same situation again until you finally learn to forgive and reconcile these differences and let it go. Right? We all must forgive, and forgiveness is one of the most powerful energy in this world. And all forgiveness means is to let go. You must forgive, not for you. Not for the other person, but for yourself. Forgiveness is for you. And this is something that I try to teach to a lot of the young people that I deal with, because, there's so, so many misguided emotions and, so much anger and stuff like that. And some of these young people that I deal with, man, they have so much anger in them for certain people in their families and things like that. And I try to teach them about forgiveness. You must learn to forgive. Mostly for yourself, because forgiveness frees you. It's going to free you from this cycle. We have no idea how many years so many of us have been locked in this cycle of these people that we're dealing with. So forgiveness is one of those things that frees you from this cycle, that breaks this unnecessary bond, right? So you must learn to forgive without having received an apology or an explanation, right? You must learn to forgive because you have no idea what has been forgiven you, and you have no idea the bonds, right? The fate that you are creating by holding on to this anger and wanting revenge. Don't seek revenge. Leave that to the law. The law of the Creator will take care of everything. It'll make sure everything is balanced and right. You leave it to the laws. That's God's work. It's not yours. Revenge is not your work. That's God's work. Leave that alone. Forgive and let go. Because if you don't, you have no idea. Some of us have been locked into these cycles, in these unnecessary bondage for thousands of years. Because we keep trampling the opportunities that we have in this current lifetime to forgive and let go and let go. So we make the bond tighter. We enslave ourselves even more. Man, as I said, matter of fact, is it this? Look, it's right here on my shirt, right here. Forgiveness is freedom, right? That's where I'm coming from. That's one of the shirts that I make. That's what I mean when I say forgiveness is freedom, right? When I started making these I Am You shirts, right? This is what I'm talking about. Forgiveness is freedom. You must learn to forgive if you want to be free. If you want to be able to ascend into the spiritual world, you must learn to forgive. It doesn't matter what has been done to you. It doesn't matter what has been done to you. And I try to teach this to the young people that I deal with. It's so hard for them to understand it because you're like, man, it's not fair. How come, they did this to me and I just have to forgive them and let them go free? Yes, you must do that. Because you have no idea what you have done in your past life. You have no idea what you have done to this person that you're having an issue forgiving. Let it go so you can be free and ascend. All right? So these family ties, man, this shit goes deep. As I mentioned, some of the people that are in your family today that you're having such a frictional relationship with, maybe you have severely hurt that person in the previous life. Maybe you even killed that person in the previous life, right? And this is why our memories are blocked. The Creator does not allow us to access the memories of our previous existence because of this. For example, if you killed a person in a previous life, and in this life, you and the person are incarnated in the same family, and you still have a memory and that person still have a memory of you killing them, and now you guys are incarnated in these close, intimate relationship. What do you think is going to happen? If that person still have a memory of the previous life, they're going to seek revenge. They're going to try to kill you too, or hurt you. So no, we're not allowed to access the memories because it's not going to help this current life. So the wisdom and love of the Creator blocks those memories so that we can have a clean slate. Don't worry. All the things of the previous life will revisit you. You don't have to have the memory. They will revisit you. So whenever you see yourself going through difficulties in life, with people, with situations, that means that you need to give it close attention. That means that you have done something in the past. You have made a decision. You have committed an act that led to this. So don't think that God is doing something unjustly against you. That means that you pay close attention to this and try to learn from it. It's not happening without reason. Right? So our memories are blocked. And thank God our memories are blocked, because if our memories were not blocked, we would not be able to live this life at all. Right? I mean, truly imagine that. These people that we call families, we have no idea what we have been through with them in the previous lives. I mean, this shit goes deep, fam. We got to learn. Life is a school. And these lessons, these are difficult lessons. These are very difficult lessons. Right? Now, let's talk about sicknesses and deformities and so forth. Right? Cancer. You see, one of the reasons why our medical industry is so insufficient, why we have so many illnesses and things like that, we're not able to really be able to treat and cure, is because most of these illnesses, the root of most of these illnesses is not the physical human body. The root of these illnesses is the soul. Right? But name a doctor, go find a doctor who truly knows the human soul and knows how to heal the human soul, knows how to operate on and heal the human soul. Right? Because most of our doctors and medicine, right, is strictly dealing with this physical life. But the human beings, we're not just living a physical life. Physicality is just one aspect of our lives. It's not the only aspect. We're also living in the ethereal planes as well. Right? So the root of so many illnesses today is the soul. So let me give an example. Let's say someone gets cancer in this life, right? But that person is like, how did I get cancer? I don't smoke, I don't drink. I live a very healthy lifestyle. My thoughts are for the most part very positive. So and this happens. A lot of people get cancer like, what the hell? How did I get this? Right? Just because we cannot see the root in this life doesn't mean that there's not a root. What can happen is that in this person's previous life, right, they were probably a very heavy smoker, right? They were a heavy smoker. It's just that the result, the reciprocal effects of harming your body in that manner, right? Because the results don't always come back right away. Sometimes these things take time. When you plant a seed, right? You don't get the fruits right away. That shit takes a while. Because it has to grow, it has to be nourished, it has to grow and all of that. So it takes a while. So for this person, in the case of this cancer, this person in their previous life could have been a very heavy smoker, right? And they may have hurt themselves in this way, but the reciprocal effects did not come back to hurt them in that lifetime. Because what we need to realize is that the things that we're doing to our bodies, our physical body, they also register on the soul. Because what you call the soul is just another body. Your soul is your ethereal body. That's all it is. So this person who was smoking in that lifetime, it didn't hurt their, the reciprocal effects did not come back on time to hurt their physical body, but it already took root in their soul body. So their soul was already affected by this. So then they die in that life, they die with no issue, no cancer, no nothing, right? They die. But when you die, the only thing that you're losing is the physical body. That's it. The earthly body. That's the only thing you're losing. Everything else is there. Right? So when that person died, right, the soul of that person was already damaged through the heavy smoking that they did in their life. So the imprints of the heavy smoking is registered on the soul. So that in their next incarnation on the planet Earth, right, they're going to develop cancer because that cancer was already imprinted in their soul, was already in their soul. So in this new life, they don't even have to be a smoker. They can be healthy and lead the most healthy life, but that sickness of the soul may very well come back and register in this physical body. I hope that's making sense to you, right? I mean, look, the stuff that I'm explaining today, it goes so freaking deep. I'm only giving you partial knowledge here. You have to dive into the Grail message to really be able to get this on a comprehensive scale. I cannot give it to you, all of it to you. I'm sorry, I can't. I don't have the capacity to. Because some of these things, as I mentioned before, are things that are spiritually absorbed but cannot be explained in words. It's like the spirit will know and learn it, but will not be able to explain it in words. So many of these things I can't explain to you in words. And sometimes that's why I struggle to explain the parts of it that I'm even able to explain. Because we're talking about spiritual knowledge here. This is not intellectual knowledge. So this is how so many people can be sick in this lifetime, but we're not able to pinpoint the root of the sicknesses. We're not able to pinpoint the root of the sickness in this physical body. That's because you started doing this shit in a previous life, right? I mean, this shit goes deep, fam. It goes incredibly deep, right? Now, when you think about things like people being born with deformities, right? And this is something that I used to struggle with this for a long time, because I used to see people who were wheelchair bound, or people, who didn't have arm, born without arm and legs and things like that. Or not just being born without those things, but being born with them and then losing it later in life, right? What's happening there? What's the root of these things? I used to have this young lady that I used to work with, And she was, she was born in a wheelchair. She was born without legs and stuff like that. And I used to feel so. I've worked with a few people who are wheelchair bound, who were born in wheelchairs and things like that. And I used to feel so sorry for them, and I used to feel so bad, and I used to feel like it wasn't fair. Like, how come, these people, they're such good people, have such a kind soul. Why did this happen to them? You know, that's how I used to think. But the thing that we need to realize is that there's nobody innocent. Nobody innocent. As long as we have been living on this planet, going back and forth on this planet, there's no innocence, right? So even some of these people that we see who are, born in wheelchairs and things like that, or end up becoming wheelchair bound, is not to say that they're evil people. They may be very, good and kind-hearted people. But good and kind-hearted people make mistakes too. Good and kind-hearted people have done some, bad things in their life. So what could be happening in this situation is this person may be in their previous life, right? They went around breaking the legs off animals. They used to torture animals for some reason, or maybe they had some kind of authority and power over a certain group of people, and they used to enjoy breaking people's legs as punishment, or whatever, right? So now what happens is that the reciprocal effects of that, right, stays attached to them, to a point that in this physical life they are born without one of their limbs. Either they're born without their limbs, or later on they end up losing the limb. It's not happening to them because there's some innocent victim. No, they did something. As we said here in the beginning, what was that in the beginning, right? What did I say in the beginning? The free will precedes every reciprocal effect, right? So nothing is happening to you that you did not cause. Nothing is happening to you that you are not the starting point of, right? So we look at a lot of these people. I mean, in my case, I used to look at a lot of these people and feel so sorry for them, and felt like I had to lose something so I can be on an even playing field with these people. That's dumb. No. We may have, the desire to help these people and be friendly to them and stuff like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we shouldn't think that there's some innocent victim. We shouldn't think that there's some injustice going on here. No. You have no idea what these people have done in their past lives. You have no idea, right? So we need to understand this. This shit goes deep, man. But anyways, man, this video is going long. There's a lot more that I can say. There's probably some things that I want to say that I'm forgetting to say, but it is what it is. This is why you have to experience the Grail message for yourself. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up, man. Wrap it up with some beautiful words from the book of life, the Grail message. Where is that page at? I think it's right here. Give me a second here. So, how often does one hear otherwise very sensible people say, "It is incomprehensible to me that God should allow such a thing"? But what is incomprehensible is that man can speak thus. How small they imagine God to be with this remark. They prove thereby that they think of him as an arbitrarily acting God. But God does not at all directly intervene in all these small and great cares of men, such as wars, misery, and other earthly matters. From the very beginning, he has woven into creation his perfect laws, which automatically carry out the incorruptible work so that all is accurately fulfilled, forever taking effect uniformly, thus preventing any preferences as well as any prejudice, any injustice being impossible. Hence, God has no need to trouble himself, especially about this. His work is without flaws. Know what I mean? So once again, all these people thinking that God is doing this, that, and the third to you, you're lying to yourself. Stop playing with yourself. All right? Learn. This life is a school. Learn. Learn what it is that you're doing to yourself, that you're doing to the world through the power of God that He has allowed us to use. Right? Because we are the creators of these things that we must experience. We are the starting point. All right. So with that being said, let us pray. We stand in the light in thy creation and know of thee, O creator of the universe. We know of thy infinite wisdom and goodness, of thy everlasting might and inexhaustible power. Worshipping, we raise our hands and beseech thee, Lord, let thy great goodness and mercy be upon us. Amen. Peace and power to the true and living. This is CBornNacirfaSun, and I am you.
If it ain't love, it ain't nothing.